Hey, it's Don, the auction professor. Today I'm just going straight to the screen. We have some relatives in town. We had a family get-together, and that's pretty much occupied a lot of my free time. We've got a big 10-foot screen, and we'll have a big movie night. We got a big wraparound sofa in there, and we all just kind of pile in and watch some stuff. But that's what happened yesterday. We had some talking about current events and things going on, and all. I know the big talk has been on like Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain lately because of the issues. We've actually met some of these people, including Anthony Bourdain. We worked at Disney in 1999 through 2009, and got 10 years, got a pension there. He actually had a book called Kitchen Confidential that came out, I think, in like 2000 or something. But he was there at Disney Village Marketplace. At one of the bookstores, I believe it was White's Books, if I'm not mistaken, and we actually ran into him, and we met him, we got him his autograph and the whole works. He's very polite, very nice guy. And then we met him again at, I believe it was Margaritaville, the cafe there in Key West. There was a big Jimmy Buffett event there, and we just happened to be there, and he was in the actual restaurant. We actually had a drink, standing talking with him for a few minutes, so it was kind of interesting. But these people are just like you and me. We've run into people working at Disney. I've met hundreds of celebrities. We've run into them on trams and in bars and in events and things that we did that we either worked for or that we, were just there hanging out. Because at Disney, you could do a lot of that stuff as an employee. You could get into places for free. You'd have access to events. And my wife did guest relations for a little while where she actually got to escort around people and, famous people usually and things like that, are people who paid the money for it. So these kind of people, the famous people that, a lot of people seem to idolize. I'm not one of those per se. I don't, worship anybody or anything like that. Nothing wrong if that's what you do. That's your thing. That's fine. They're just like you and me. There's nothing different about them. They have the same problems, the same issues. Like Kate Spade, same basic thing happened to, Anthony Bourdain. I met David Spade, so, he was at Disney for some kind of event. It was a long time ago, like in 91, 92. If you're not familiar, Kate Spade's married to David Spade's brother. So we've met some of these people, and honestly, they're just normal people. They eat just like you. They, put their pants on the same way or whatever the case may be. They have the same issues, the same problems. I don't idolize anybody famous. There's people I may like or think they're good actors, but I've met a lot of these people. I'm not trying to brag about the issue. This is just what I happen to do as a business. When I worked for Disney, I used to do a lot of stuff like that, and we did what was called the Studio Catering Company, and we worked a lot of the events that were rented out to these organizations, and all the groups that are in Hollywood and stuff. They'd send people there, and they'd have events and things like that. So I have met a lot of these people. I even met Walt Disney's granddaughter, and we met Roy E. Disney's grandson. We met Michael Eisner. So we've gotten to see a lot of the inner workings of the big wig, Hollywood type, business. So saw it from the inside. I've even been in a few videos. You can see me even in a episode of Full House, believe it or not. But that's just some of the things that happened, working at Disney. So I've seen these people again. They're nothing special. They deserve the respect and the decency that anybody else does. I do, feel bad for the family and all, but that's life for everybody. So, that's about all I'm going to say on that. Everybody deserves the same respect and consideration as, anybody else. Nothing more, nothing less. That's just how it is. But on to this week. I just went straight to the screen this time, just again because I do have relatives here, and I didn't want to take the time to set up any equipment or anything like that. We have a very tight environment that we work in. It's a tight space. And it's just not, easy to set up everything. So sometimes I've got questions about, can we see the facility? It's pretty hard without doing a walkthrough on a camera, which I may do sometime in the future too. But the most important part of what I want to do is let you find out stuff and learn stuff that you may not have known that will actually help you, I can show you this or that, and if it's not going to help you, I'm not going to waste my time. Making the time to throw myself in the video. I just didn't think it was necessary. So we're going to go on and show you some items here. I just grabbed some again. This is just random items from the last week from this account. We sold many hundreds of items this past week without a problem. This week, still, again, our sales are still going up. We still have an increase over last week. But, we are listing constantly. I'm probably going to do a few videos here this week so you can kind of see some of the people who work for us and what they do. And we'll go from there. But the first item here, again, I talk about pens and stuff. This is just an advertising pen. We did take $18.50 for it. Pencils and pens sell. It's a decent item that we do sell quite often. Well worth your time to invest $1 or so into something like this. And a lot of the times the pencils, just regular number 2 pencils and things from railroads and, companies and even Hollywood events, even Disney pencils and things like that, we always sell. We can get them for a few cents, 5 cents, 10 cents a piece, 20 for $1, whatever the case may be. But we do look for that. Advertising stuff always sells, vintage advertising stuff especially. Next item here. I believe I showed this one in a haul video, if I'm not mistaken. I held out. I got $15 for it. They average like 8 to 10, honestly. So, it's perceived value. So on this one, the perceived value is that, it's worth $19.99. I take an offer for $15. They think they're getting a good deal, and everybody's happy. So, that was a pretty good investment. I believe it was like 69 cents at a thrift store or something like that. Let's see here. Now, I'm not showing a ton of records until I get a video coming out this week, literally going into records. But I thought I'd throw these out here because I had talked about poker records the other day. Now, people don't mess with poker records, so I usually can do very well on poker records. And they're really nothing. They show up here all the time because there's a huge Polish community. My grandmother was Polish. She spoke Polish. She played polkas around the house. She knew a couple of the people who had records out because there is a couple, well-known Polish groups here in Toledo and in Detroit. So, these are something that I've run into. I know the sounds. I know what they sound like. I've heard them in the house when I was a kid. I heard Polish spoken, when I was a kid as well, too. But Whoopi John Wilfhart. This is one that's a fairly well sought-after performer. They don't show up very often. This is actually a promo, again, dollar record. I sold 2 to the same person the same day, $34.50. This is the first one. And let's clear this off so you can see the next one. And this is the next one here. Again, same performer, John Wilfhart. So, these are things that you can still sell. The condition was a big issue, so you don't want to buy anything that's an odd topic like this unless the condition is excellent. And this is an E-, I believe it was. E- condition, which is very, very good. The next step up is E and then E+. And then there's, the next step up from that would be like a mint. I never would list anything above an E. Or E+, actually. So records sell, and it doesn't have to be, the standards, rock and roll and stuff. When you're looking at records, usually it's the ones you've never heard of, that are worth the most money because they weren't well sought after. They weren't, pressed millions of them. There might be limited numbers of them, and those are always the ones that are worth more. Like in the soul records, which are the highest selling records overall, group-wise, it's usually the one-offs or the real rare records that there's only a couple hundred pressed that are worth $4,000 or $5,000 for a 45. But on to the next item. Oscar Wilde items always sell for us too. Now this one here is a tobacco R.C. Brown, and I believe they're still in business probably at this point too. Stratton and Storms was the cigar line, and R.C. Brown was the supplier. But this, as a tobacco card, would not have sold very high, $20, $30, if at the most. But Oscar Wilde, and this was one I had not seen. I've sold many Oscar Wilde. These kind of cards show up in non-sports trading card collector collections. That's where you're going to find these type of things. That's looking outside of the box. That's an insider info that most people aren't going to tell you. These are collected by non-sports trade card collectors, like those who collect Star Wars cards from the 70s, or James Bond cards from the 60s, the like Thunderball card set, stuff like that, which I run into too, and I do buy those and sell those very well as well too. But those are the collectors and the collections you find these at. They don't always know how old these are. They'll show up in their collections, and to them it's just a neat, interesting non-sports trade card. So, that's where I do well. Now, this one here I sold for $90, as I said, and I think I had 3 Oscar Wilde cards up, and they all went. One of them I wasn't even aware it was an Oscar Wilde card, which that helped me learn real quick when I looked up the offer to see if I wanted to take it. Sure enough, I found other cards that said Oscar Wilde on it, and I did not use that in the title. Still sold, still got a real good price for it. But, I learn stuff every day just from listing stuff. So, You know, it doesn't matter how long you've been on. You can be on 40 years and you're going to find something new, you know, all the time. So, you know, don't, you know, not want to learn stuff. Don't lock yourself out from things like that. Expand your mind and think about new areas and new items to look for. Just gave you a good place to look and start. You can find collections at estate sales and stuff. Maybe it would be something you wouldn't look at or think about, but, you know, that would be an area that I would hit automatically. And here's another one. Let's see if I can zoom out. This is a single card. There's a set of 4 of these, but only Oscar Wilde is shown in the one card. Now, the flower on the elephant, he's in the same pose. It's an anthropomorphic elephant, O.N.T. Clark spool cotton. Again, this came out of the same collection. It was a non-sports collection. Oscar Wilde is down in the bottom left of there. It's the same pose. It's a well-known pose. That is how he dressed almost all the time. In every image you can see of Oscar Wilde, he is dressed similarly. Some of these cards just may say the aesthetic. The aesthetic is his aesthetic movement. You may see cards that say the aesthetic hat, the aesthetic coat. That's all tied to Oscar Wilde. He was huge in his day in the 1880s, 1890s, even maybe in the late 1870s. And anthropomorphic goes as well, and an elephant, you know, so elephants are very popular. When my first son was born, we decorated his whole room. We bought elephants galore. We had babar stuff everywhere and books and stuff. So, you know, I was into elephants for my son, and it was, you know, just the theme we picked for him. But these always sell. This card here, you know, I took 45, I think, on this one here. And that's fairly good. A whole set of these sells for 60, but again, this is the key card. I think I actually have the other cards from the set too, but this was the card that was worth the money. Let's move on here. Let's see the next one. My wife loves turtles. We have a tortoise, so this, you know, I don't know where she found this one at, but this is one of her finds. But it went for $12.50. It was up for quite a little while, but again, we've got 60 cents in the listing this, and maybe a quarter out of, you know, a bin because of the corner chipped on the top. The person's was happy with this one. It's something that you know, it's routinely sells in this range, even in the condition you see, which actually in fairly good condition. But our bread and butter, you know, at one time we got a lot of money from Amazon, from FBA books, but you know, with the storage fees and the change and all, you know, it just wasn't our bread and butter anymore. There was too much, you know, there was just too many fees, and it was really cutting into the time and business and all. So we kind of looked for another area when we dumped clothing after, you know, the FBA and all that fiasco. We still made money on FBA, but it was just a nuisance. It took a lot of time. It was really killing the business. It was hard to expand. So we filled that gap for bread and butter with small paper items. We sell tons of paper items from $5 to $14 constantly. 10, 15, 20 of those every single day of the week. That's average. You know, some weeks it might be 30 or 40 items. Paper items, just the paper items, sell every day of the week. There's weeks that I've sold 600 items in 1 week. You know, so that's the kind of business that you've got to do the volume that we do. You know, you're not going to make it, you know, selling, you know, jeans at a $6 pop and 20 of those a week. You're just not going to do it. You know, and storage space and then the other issues that are involved in it. This takes a lot of work, you know, and I couldn't get here where I'm at without hiring people as well, too. So a lot of people are at a point where, like, how am I going to get bigger? How am I going to get bigger? You don't want to do drop shipping because of the risks and, you know, the fact that you can be shut down any day of the week by eBay or the site. They could pull, you know, a lawsuit against you for stealing their title if you're only using the same title. They could charge you with, you know, the same thing, you know, intellectual property theft for using their photos. You know, there's just so many issues with stuff like that. I know people are making a ton of money. It's the heyday of, you know, of that. But it's going to run into some problems here soon. I can tell you for sure because they're cracking down on it on eBay and on Amazon. They're pulling off people who are copying headlines and titles and using, you know, illegally using someone else's photos. That is against the law to use a photo off of Walmart's site and use that same photo. It is against the law. That is their property. It even says it in their disclaimer. I have read it. So, you know, you're risking yourself. You're risking your eBay. You're risking starting from scratch with zero feedback again if you do it. You know, again, that's your call. I'm not criticizing you for doing it. I'm just saying it's a risky business, and everybody who's watched me even for a few weeks knows that I don't take risks for the most part in anything. I have a BOP, which most people do not do, and everybody that I have talked to and ran into, on YouTube don't have one. Most of the people didn't even know what a BOP was, and these are people who are selling other people's products, drop shipping wise, and assuming liability without having coverage for insurance. Don't drop ship unless you have insurance. If you sell a product that had an issue where someone dies and you sold it, you're going to be included in any lawsuit because you marketed and sold that product. Again, it's a risky business. Most people aren't going to tell you that. Most people aren't going to even tell you that there's a risk of that. You know, it's not your product or whatever the case may be. You are held liable. Just like if you're in a restaurant and you're a manager and you serve alcohol to somebody, they're not going to sue the alcohol company. They're going to sue you for supplying the item. So just keep that in mind. Get a BOP. Let's move on here. Again, I'm still selling the last few of the stereo items. I took 30 on this. It's been up for a little while. I've made, you know, like 1,600 plus profit on that purchase. So at this point, I'm just going to blow them out. Whatever I get for them, I get for them. I don't really care. It's a ton of money. They've been up for a month now. You know, I could just let them ride for a while too, as I said with some things. But we've got a lot of purchase opportunities. I don't like to drain anything from the bank account. I like to use what's coming in to purchase new items, and we're building up our bank. So at this point now, I'm just going to blow some of these items out a little bit. We put some items on sale. You know, what the heck? You know, I need the space, honestly. We'll be putting in another shelf. I've got a specific size one that we're able to get in now. So we're adding one more shelf in, and we eliminated, you know, some space with, you know, the computer burning out and things like that. So anyway, let's move on to the next item. This was up for a little while. I got about 60 cents in the listing this. This is an original Courier knives. I believe it's a first impression. It may not be though, but it is hand painted, hand watercolored, which are what you want. It's on thick rag cloth style paper. And I took 30 for this. This has been up for almost a year, so I got about 60 cents in the listing. It's not in great condition, but I bought a bunch of these. Person didn't have a clue what they were. This was actually an antique mall purchase. I paid $2 a piece. I think I got 8 or 10 of these, all original Courier knives. They actually thought that someone a kid went in and painted these. That was their explanation, you know, like a watercolor, like a coloring book. And I was a little surprised that that's what they thought, but that's how the original ones are done back then. There wasn't a printing process to do the color you know, color images like that. So, and this is Courier knives. All the ones like that are hand done. That's what you're looking for, hand painted. This is Nassau is the main address you want on these. And I do sell these, you know, maybe once a month I'll run into something Courier knives. I picked up a huge set of Courier knives, 1880s cards the other day. I might show you like a special video on, you know, what to look for in Courier knives. Most Courier knives aren't worth much money at all, but if you know what to look for, you can pull out the gems out of there. You can cherry pick a lot. That would be a BOLO in my book, I guess you could say. I know $30 over a year, taking almost a year to sell, it may not seem like much to you, but when you get 10 items, you know, you paid $2 a piece. I've got $20 into a bunch of these. The first week that I had them up, I sold 3 out of those, and I got $100+ for each one of those. So do I care if this sits there for a year or two to get $30 back out of it? Not at all. It was long since paid for, so all I'm doing is maybe taking 60 cents off my profit of, you know, hundreds of dollars. Out of that $20 investment, we probably got back $6.80-ish, somewhere in that range, not counting this one here either. You know, so that just kind of gives you an idea. Who cares if I throw away 60 cents to list one or two more for another year to sell them? This one went on sale, and that's, again, as I said, I put some items on sale. Items I had a little while, items I just, you know, I'm tired of looking at. Again, I could keep these for another year on some items and not have marked it down and probably got what I wanted. You have to worry about residual income. That's what you're worrying about and looking for when you have 40,000 items up. You know, that was our goal from the start. That's what I was looking to do when we started pounding it and putting all these items up for sale. So just, you know, that's our model. You've got to find a model that works for you. This model can work for anybody if they know what they're doing and if they spend the time to research. You're not going to turn around and tomorrow going to be sitting here buying every good postcard and not wasting any money, or buying every good record, or buying every good print, or anything like that. It took us a couple of years. You know, yeah, you've got clothing or you've got books and stuff. Everybody can do that, but it's a rat race. You know, there's more and more people doing it. There's more and more people every day of the week doing it. Your competition is going up and your supply is going down, and the prices you need to purchase these items are also going up. So you have a lower and lower ROI on your items. And for us, we don't have that issue. You know, I don't have to worry about too much competition on someone running into a stack of Courier knives prints somewhere, because that just doesn't show up very often. I look at these one oddball items, and, you know, I can just nitpick these out and save myself all that trouble and you know, the aggravation of, you know, rat racing every day to get clothing and fighting it at a thrift store all the time. I don't like going to thrift stores too much anymore because there's so many rude people. The prices are so high. They actually closed both Savers here in this town, so we don't even have a Savers anymore. Just closed two just overnight. And you know, so the whole market in general, if it crashes and they, you know, thrift stores start closing down, you know, where are you going to source your items at? I know some of the clothing people in here in this area that were selling clothing and using Savers for a main source are now hurting, and their business isn't doing as well because of that. There's no bins in this area. The closest bin is 3 hours away that I am aware of. So, you know, and that's in Columbus, Ohio. So, you know, there's no Goodwill bins to rush to. You only have a few select Goodwills and a couple Salvation Armies, and there's some few mom and pop places, and it's a fight to get those. So, you know, I'm done with the rat race. I don't even go to garage sales anymore, just for similar issues like that. You know, it was, you know, even 5 years ago when we first started, there was people listing, you know, tons of stuff at our sale, and you get there and there was 20 items or something. So it just wasn't worth it. But let's move on here. I might have shown this. I don't remember. This is just a brand new item. I paid $1 or $2 for this. I honestly don't even remember I got it at. I sold it for $30. It's brand new. It's sealed. It's a muffler for, geez, I wasn't even sure what it was to. I just put the number down. It may be a lawnmower. It may be a motorcycle. I have no clue. But $30, 60 cents or so into listing it again. So, you know, I'm not worried about that when it's, you know, that cheap. I believe I showed this one. It's damaged. This one's damaged. I took $25. Yeah, I took $25 for it, plus they paid shipping. So, you know, at that point, who cares? I got $1 or $2 in this. I think this was a thrift store find, too. Let's see here. Postcards again. I took $25.50 for this. It made it $29 with shipping for them. $3.50 is what it usually costs for shipping on these items. And again, we're running late on this. This is another one I just put up just the other day, I believe. Yeah, this one was just put up. So, you know, some of these cards, you know, you want to get up for 4th of July. I only have a couple 4th of July, I believe, up right now. I've had somebody take pictures of another 30 or so more 4th of July postcards. It may be a little late in the game still to get them out, but we're shooting for it still anyway. Have them up this week. Maybe I'll show you an update. But 4th of July cards are going hot right now. Top dollar. Last year, you know, in the wintertime, this one wouldn't have sold for that at all. I'd be lucky to get $8. This is one of those seasonal. The 4th of July ones do sell around the season. Let's see here. I believe I showed this one in a video too. This is just like a postcard from a sheriff, 1908. I should have probably put more on it, but the last one only sold for like $14 from another person who had one up. So I did research this one, and again, it was only 14 or some odd bucks for the card. Maybe not even that much. So I just threw $34.50 out, and the other person's wasn't a buy it now. So this is where perceived value comes into play here. The person who saw this thought $34.50 was good. I know that $14 was what the last one sold, which I, again, do believe was an auction where people had the chance to bid up to whatever it went for. So when you do, you know, buy it now versus, you know, an auction, you have the opportunity for someone just wants to buy it and be done with it. They don't care that it costs more. That's the same way it works with, you know, like people who don't buy certain items from certain people because of their feedback. They don't care if they pay a little more to make sure they get the item, to make sure it's on legit, it doesn't have issues. So let's say, like I talk about, I buy my stuff for our kids for Christmas, and most of our items come offline. I hardly ever buy anything other than groceries in a store or maybe a few shirts or something. But we look at the person's, you know, feedback, no matter where we're at, you know, and most people do that. More and more people are doing that just because of all the scammers online. Don't fool yourself and say that you're going to undercut everybody and that's why you're going to make more money. You're going to sell your stuff because you're undercutting people. You're selling it for a little cheaper. The feedback is important more now than ever because more and more people are getting scammed. You as a seller have gotten scammed. You know that's a fact. So, you know, you've got to think about that. When you are, you know, blowing your feedback for, you know, stupid issues, that's one reason I don't do drop ship, you know. I don't want to lose any feedback. Feedback means a lot. I know some people are just out for cheapness, but once they've been burned once or twice, they're not going to be the next time around. You can't rely on that. And with more and more of these features being added in safety features, even with like eBay doing stuff and Amazon and return policies, you better start worrying about it now instead of listening to the folks that are telling you it's not important. I guarantee you it's important. I don't care what anybody says. We've run the test to prove it. But feedback matters. You know, we've ran stuff. It's important. It means a lot. We've got several stores, as I said. One store doesn't have Top Rated Plus because of the items up and the amount we sell. We don't sell enough on our small account. So we do run stuff, and that's more a test account than anything else. So we can test sales on, you know, a top rated versus a non-top rated account. And again, I don't share everything with you. I'm not going to give away all my secrets. We make a ton of money on some things that you know, are out of the box. We make a ton of money on some things that are way out of the box, way off base with what most people would think you could do. So I don't share everything, but we do run tests on our different accounts, you know, to challenge one account versus the other to see where stuff goes better. You know, we can zoom in on feedback. We can zoom in on Top Rated Plus or such stuff like that. We can zoom in on title variances of the same item at the same time. So, you know, there's a good reason to have multiple sites. But, you know, this is a good example right here. Look up this card yourself. Look up McFadden Sheriff Postcard and see what the last one sold for. You see that I sold this for way more than the other one. I might have been able to get $57.50. Again, it's perceived value. Let's move on to the next one. Another sale item. Now again, I just hit the ones that had a ton of watchers because if you've got a ton of watchers that's been up for a little while, you've probably got it priced wrong if you're not getting even an offer on it. I didn't even get a lowball offer on it, but the minute I raised or put it on sale and lowered the price by 30%, I got a bid on it or got an offer on it almost immediately. Actually, this one did sell. This one sold for $19.25. It was not an offer. It was my 30% reduction in price, and I didn't take an offer now that I see it. We sell a ton of items, so sometimes it's easy to get confused. We've hundreds of items this week alone, and that's just eBay sales, not counting Amazon or Etsy or any of the other sites we mess with. Next item here. This was another one of those. I believe I showed this maybe in a video. Again, California card. I took $50 for it. Now, there wasn't one of these up. $50 seemed pretty good to me. It's from the Golden Gate Expo, and comparing this, again, people have asked about price all the time. There wasn't another one of these to compare it to, so you have to guess and judgment and try and think what would be the best price on this based on other items. What I looked for in this are Golden Gate Expo items, maybe not even postcards, but Golden Gate Expo items that advertise similar items, food items, candy items. You know, it doesn't even have to be C's. I also looked up those C's candy when I'm doing the research for this specific card. And C's Candy stuff seemed to sell too, so I figured, you know, we've already got a plus because almost every one of the C's Candies items sold. So you got 80-90% sales rate on C's Candy. Golden Gate Expo has a 50-60% sell-through rate. So, you know, between the two, it was pretty high. And some of the other Golden Gate items went up to the $75 range. So, boom, I put $75 on it. I didn't think I was going to get $75 for it, but that's my starting point. And $50 was a decent offer. It was a legitimate offer. If somebody offered $8-10 for it, I would have probably, you know, turned back around and put, you know, a real high offer back because I'm not going to mess with that kind of stuff. On to the next item. Comic books, again, I won't go into much detail. I sell these every single week. I sell comic books. We got a couple hundred more here. I've got a box of them just this week from a picker. I look for underground and independents too. Those sell very well. In fact, I sell probably more of those now than I do the name brands because there was more of the name brands printed, so there's more of them available. But we got 25 for this lot, like $4 a comic or something like that. Again, these were $1 or less each, probably way less than that, even maybe 50 cents. A lot of people don't mess or think that the 25 centers are worth anything, but they're not worth selling on their own, which is true. But putting them in lots, you're going to make some good money. We made, you know, probably $20 profit on these 6 comic books here. More of the turntable items and the hi-fi. I think I took 20. Yeah, I took 20 for this one. Let's see the next one. I know I showed this one in a haul video. This is the Zowies. I took $28.50 for this, and I had 4 offers before I took that $28.50 that I refused. You know, I had a $15 offer was the lowest one, and then I think the next one was like $18, and then they went to had another $20, and I think I even had a $25. Yeah, the one who I actually took, he sent in a $25 offer, and I sent back $28.50, just because that's the last 2 I countered at was $28.50. This is top of the mark for the card, the condition, and the year and all, what these go for. Top end is what I got in this one. So this one here, I paid like $1 or something, and this was a bag on a wall, I think in a Goodwill. I had it for, maybe 6 months or so. So, I got 30 cents in the listing. It went for $10.50. Not a huge profit, but, these items can go either way. I couldn't find any specifics for a couple of the names on here, so I figured, a few cents, I'm going to get some money out of it. And again, it's a good profit. I made $9 off of it. I took a few minutes to list at the very most. 2 photos, throw them down, and boom. And when they're listing these kind of things, they're not moving the camera. They're not moving lights. They just keep throwing stuff down on the base of this, and we just keep taking photos. And again, my guys can do 4,000 photos in one day without a problem. That's 2,000 listings, roughly, if we're doing small items like this. Obviously, if it's clothing, the counts go drastically down in production amounts. But here's another one. Here's a magazine. Again, I paid $1, I think, for this. I bought a whole stack of these. I think I've showed you a couple other ones. I sold a bunch of magazines. I'm centering it on this one here and some of the other ones I've showed you because I want you to see that it's not the title or the type of the magazine that makes a thing sell. The person who got this collects Gone with the Wind items. So why did this sell for $45 when, most people probably wouldn't sell these magazines for much else? I put Gone with the Wind in the title. When there's something like this from the 30s and 40s, these early magazines, the magazine title isn't what you always want to center around. This is, again, a thing on pricing here. When you're buying magazines, don't always worry about what the title is of the magazine. If the magazine's old enough and there's good content on the cover of the magazine is what sells a lot of these. I've shown you the last 2 from this lot that I got were Christmas, I think. No, one was Halloween, one was Christmas, and now I've got one from Gone with the Wind. I paid like $1 a piece for a whole lot, a bunch of these. I've doubled my money with 3 magazines. And I guarantee you I'm going to sell one of these probably every month, maybe even 2 a month of these magazines. And it's residual income. I buy this lot and I sell a couple a month. I buy another lot and I sell a couple of those every month. I buy 50 or 100 postcards. I sell 2 or 3 of those every single month. All of this adds up. It's not the individual items itself. It's the vision for the big picture. And again, I talk about the vision. If you don't have a big picture mindset of what you're doing and where you're going with this, and stop worrying about these little tiny small things and aggravations with this and aggravations with that, bad customers, bad buyers, that's all just business. That's cost of doing business. Don't worry about it. That's just a waste of your time. I don't even think about that anymore. We're living life very well right now. We're living high on the hog, I guess you could say. We're doing very well. I have almost no stress in my life at all at this point. Everything's just falling into place. And I'm not trying to brag at all. Don't take it that way. But I'm trying to let you know that this life, it can work for you if you put the time in. If you're not going to put in all the hours you can, you don't really want this enough. You've got to dedicate yourself to doing this, full time, all the time, and be into it. I'm into this. I love what I do. I love the fact that I can sit here and relax and sit out on my deck or in my patio down in the yard or something, and have my dogs running around or something, and be watching the birds while I'm typing something up for a listing. I can't do this anywhere else. I can't just stop what I'm doing or take my kids somewhere or do anything anytime I want. This is it. This is what I am meant for in my mind. This is it. This is where I should have been 25 years ago when I worked all these long hours and I had nothing to show for it. I've got more to show for my last 5 years than I have for the rest of my life in working for somebody. That's a fact. That is not me making something up or trying to steer you in this. I do this to show you how life can change for you, for me. I've helped other people who are now big-time power sellers, who started off after I did, after they saw what I did, who I know personally, who I've known for years, who doubted me all these years on doing eBay, and now they're doing it and doing the same thing I'm doing. You can do this, but if you're not going to put in the work, I do 60 hours a week right now, sometimes more than that. Again, I can stop and take somebody somewhere, do something, or go to the store and come back and do it later. I can put on the TV and watch something while I'm doing this. I can blare the music as loud as I want. I can, have people around while I'm even doing this. I can take the laptop and watch something in bedroom and sit on the bed and do it. I can do it anywhere I want or do it how I want. I could take this to the restaurant and do it in a restaurant. It doesn't matter what I do anymore because I'm not tied to anybody else. This is me. And that would be you if you take the step. But you've got to put in the time. You've got to understand that everything, most people would just throw this up, as a magazine and put the issue and stuff, might not think about Gone with the Wind. This stuff like this, like the Christmas covers on these magazines, you can put that in the holiday section. Some Christmas magazine issues sell better in the holiday section. Like Life magazine, there's a Batman cover on Life magazine that we always sell in the $50 range, 1965, 66. I don't remember what the issue is, but whenever I see it, I grab it. Even not in great condition, it still sells. You can put that one in the comic book section, and it sells almost quicker than it does in the magazine section. So, magazines, again, don't always have to put them in the right section that you think. Just because it says back issues of magazines, and that's where eBay recommends you to sell it, as long as you're listing saying Christmas in a Christmas issue of Life magazine, it's legit to put in a Christmas category. eBay's chances are is not going to say you're listing the wrong category because it's a Christmas item. So just think outside the box on listing all these collectibles. Most collectibles, you have many options to list them in different categories, but eBay is only going to suggest the same category every time because that's where the majority of people list them at. Don't follow what the majority is doing because that always isn't the right answer. That may be why they don't sell stuff like we do for $45 for a magazine that routinely doesn't sell for $3 or $4. So, that's just the difference here. But let's move on here again. Vintage jewelry. This was something that I had up. I knew it was a good item. This is Victorian, 1870s or 80s. This was actually, I believe, a thrift store bag lot I got. Now, I know vintage jewelry. It's similar to the buttons that I get from the same area. So I knew what this was. I knew the age on the item. It's actually milk glass. It's a cameo. It's a real nice piece. It's an early pin style construction where they've twisted the wire itself around. It's a nice piece, Even the threading and the rope, the thread that's through there is vintage. The size that they use is vintage. The clasp is vintage. So I knew right off the bat what era this is from. We sell a lot of vintage jewelry, especially the Art Nouveau in Victorian area. I do a lot of Victorian items. They sell in the goth market. They sell in a lot of markets. I had it up for $175, and it's actually missing part of the clasp. Well, it's not even complete, mind you. It's two pieces. They do match color-wise. It probably was a set at one time. I put it on sale again, 30%, and immediately we took $122.50 overnight. I went to bed. I put it on sale just before I went to bed, and by the time I woke up in the morning, 6 hours later, boom, it had already sold. So, that was a good day. That day we did I want to say $14.80 or somewhere in that range off of the sales that we put up. I believe I showed this just in the hall the other day. It's damaged. You see what it looks like. $18.50 right off the bat. It wasn't up but 4 hours. Records again. This one was up a little while. I have 45 cents in the listing it. It's not our item. It's jazz. And $34.50 I took out of it. Let's see here. Another card we just put up. I don't remember where we had this one. We've had this one probably for a year or so in a box that we kind of shoved aside and pulled some of those items out. I took $65 for this the day it went up within a couple hours. And it's a Victorian trade card, so, this is one that I sold to the gentleman who wrote the book on Victorian trade cards. He writes the book on it. You can look him up. I'm not going to give out any names. No permission. I have no association with him directly. We've talked many times through emails, but he writes the book on this subject. We're actually working on a book right now on this as well, too, like a price guide kind of thing. Again, I'm not doing YouTube, though, to market you all my stuff. That's not my goal at this point. I'd be glad for you to buy my stuff and buy my own personal artwork, but, my goal is honestly to help you and to hopefully get some return on my helping people for my time, if at least if nothing else. I love talking about this because this is what I love. If you can't get how I feel about these items, then there's maybe something wrong with you. But I love what I do. I love the items that I have, and I love talking about them. And again, as a regional manager, I was required to sit down and have meetings, for an hour or two every single week. And this is what I kind of miss to some extent. So if I come in here and talk about stuff, that's what I've always done for my entire history of working for somebody. I used to train people. I used to, as assistant do meetings. As a general manager, I did store meetings. And as a regional, I did meetings. So in meetings, I talk to people and I discuss stuff and I explain stuff and I show how it works. So that's where I'm coming from again. But I do have, other materials. We are writing a few things, and we've got some kids books, that are going to be coming out, and my models are literally at the almost done stage. So before Halloween, though, you're going to see some of the items that we've personally designed, produced, and mass produced to some extent. So, but anyway, another one that was up for just an hour or two, $17.50. Another California card, of course. Underground Comics. I took 20 for this, and this is what you're looking for Underground Comics. I believe this is a Crumb. If you're not sure who Crumb is, just type in Crumb and comic, and you'll find out real quick. His stuff goes fairly high for the most part. This one here, I had a bunch of these at one time. I was listing 2 or 3 at a time, and I bought a ton of different ones from the same line, and I bought them like at a wholesale thing from a company that went under, and they had tons of these. Some of these issues I had 40, 50 of them. I list only a couple at a time, makes them look scarcer, and I've been selling them all for like $10 a piece, and you can probably look up, I don't remember what the name of the series is, but there's a ton of these little, they're like magazine thickness, like 60, 70 pages. And again, you can buy from businesses that are going under. You don't necessarily always have to go to a call. We buy out businesses that go under. We buy out, some person might buy out the registers. I buy out computers. Or if stuff like this shows up and no one wants to mess with the books and the magazines and stuff, I usually buy them if they're military. We sort this all out. We've got some good people that we do this with. So I trust the people that I'm doing this. We all look out for each other. We've all had this special niche. And that's how I work, too, with some of the state sellers and auction houses. I've got an insider info and insider deals with some of these people, and I only deal with certain things with each individual one so that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, and it works better that way. As long as everybody's doing the right thing, things can be done in with other people, and it can succeed. This one's up for a little while. I got like, I don't know, $1 in the listing it maybe, and this is like a quarter item, and I did sell it for $12.50. So it's a carved dyed bone. It's made out of like literally like a camel bone, it looked like. But it was pretty interesting. He was happy. We left real good feedback on that item. Another postcard sold right away. Now this one here is a seriograph. Now I found a bunch of the seriographs on eBay, and they only went for $8, $10 for any of them. And you can look these up too. Look up seriograph in California or Malibu area. But this one was different. I probably could have put it for $57.50 for all I know. I'm not really sure. But $34.50 was, 3 times what the other ones of this nature sold for. This is like a silkscreen card kind of thing. That's basically what a seriograph is. But it may not be done by hand. It may have a machine that does it. Poster stamps, I think I got $10 out of this one. I talk about these all the time. I bought a sheet of these. A sheet of these maybe goes for $30. Now, I've sold 7 of these individually. But I've sold quite a few of these individually, well over what I would have gotten for a sheet of these. Don't be worried about, separating the perforations and selling items individually. That works for residual income. It might have sold quicker because it was a sheet, but I would have got less for it. So I gave up the $30 quick sell, and I've now sold, as I said, like 7 or 8 of these for $8 to $10. So I doubled that profit, and I held on to the item for a little longer. So I've got 60 more cents or $1.20 in the listing of a bunch of these separately. So big whoop, that's how I look at it. You can't think of it as, I need to flip this once you hit a certain point. I don't worry about getting my money back on most items. We can afford it now. I don't worry about that at all. There's weeks where I've spent 10 grand on items to purchase and turn around and resell, and we've still held on to those items for a little while. I do try in big purchases like that to pull a few items out and, get the big chunk or if not all of my money back right away. But it's not always possible, and I don't always worry about that. I look at, if I spend, $1,000 on something, I can either flip it right away for a $2,500 profit, or I can stretch it out and have residual income and then turn around and make a 10 grand profit. That's the difference. That's what you need to work up to if you're not to that stage yet. You may, think, wow, I can't spend $10,000 on something. I couldn't either 5 years ago. But 5 years is not a long time in business life to be able to buy $10,000 items and $10,000 lots, or buy out a whole estate, or buy out an entire store of items that's going under. It went out of business, it's bankrupt, you're a bankrupt sale, bankrupt auction. That's the thing that we hit. That's just another insider for you there, though. But this was up for a little while, and honestly, I don't remember if I listed it or not. It's been so long. We have probably $1 or something into it. It had some water damage, and one of the viewers actually saw it at the very top up there. Now, I just thought that was part of the book, I guess, or whoever did when we first got it, because it doesn't show on the cover other than a little tiny spot on the right corner up there. So the original price on this was like $75. Now, if it was in mint condition, it probably would have sold for $75, but we got 30 out of it. And again, this is like a 50-cent coloring book that was bought with a whole stack of coloring books at one of my pickers or somewhere like that. This is a postcard I believe I showed. Again, I took 20 on this. Again, I just throw some price out there. There was nothing to compare this to other than other cards that either I have sold or just a couple other people have sold. This is a large jumbo size card, souvenir, and it goes along with this one here, which I don't know if I showed you or not, but it's the same style, and that's how I judged that card, the last one, the Werewolf card I just showed you, how I got a price on that one. I put it over this one here because it was like a voodoo place. It was like a museum and stuff. So I figured that one might be a little more, and less of those are made than this one. This one here I took 20 on. The only other sale of this one that I found was like $8 or $10, and I buy it now. So that's why I put it up higher. And again, I used this card to judge what the other one should be priced at. So if I showed it, I apologize, but I'm just trying to show you the example of how I figured out what an unknown card would have been priced at. And $20 for that card is very good because I've got nothing into it. So anyway, we'll just start here, and we've only got a couple left. But this is a little booklet. Again, another sale item. I had 65 on it. These are iffy in price-wise. Some can go for very high. This one had sheet music and a Zouvet soldier engraving it, and I think I've got an image of it. Let me see what I've got in there. Hopefully I did. Let's see here. No, I guess I didn't even show it. But anyway, there's some nice engravings in here. It's Civil War vintage, 1860s. This was bought in a lot from someone's basement or attic, I'm sure, if I'm not mistaken. I've got a bunch of these, so I can't say specific on each one. But this showed up in an old farmhouse auction or estate sale, something like that. I have $1 or $2 probably into each one of these that I bought. So, you know, $45, it's not a huge ordeal. Some of these have hand-colored illustrations inside, so these always look for, always. And there's some military content in them sometimes too. Very rarely, but there is. Here's a Gar piece. This one was up for a little while. I took 30. The person thought the pins weren't there, but they were, and they still work. So $30 for this is literally the high-end top dollar on this anyway. So $30 was fine. As I said, I usually put it more than it's worth because sometimes you sell it at that price too. So, you know, $47.50 list price, sold it for $30. I only got a few bucks into this. It just showed up in a big lot of stuff I bought. And this is the last one. I believe I took $45 for this one here. Let me go up. It had a certificate of authenticity. It was new old stock, never used, never sold. Black Hills gold. It was 12 karat gold with a garnet and sterling chain. It was pretty interesting. Again, this I think I paid like $3 or $4 for somewhere. They didn't even know that it had the certificate in it. When you, in these boxes, let me click on the right image here. In these boxes, if you don't pull out the insert that actually the chain is buried underneath, you're not going to see some of the stuff. It was just thrown in just like this with the paperwork stuffed in underneath there. I found the paperwork after I took it out trying to get the chain out of there. So, you know, that's just another thing. You need to check out all your items before you sell them or get rid of them. But that's literally what I've got for you for today. I'll be back on camera tomorrow. We just had a little family get together for the weekend, so, you know, that kind of puts a little, put me a little off schedule here. But again, I am going to be shooting for Wednesday live show at 7 Ohio Eastern Standard Time. So if you got questions, save them up, and we will go from there. But again, Don, the Auction Professor, hopefully you saw something. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, please hit the like button below. Subscribe and tell a friend.